everyone, and welcome back. Today we're going to be taking a deep dive into a real blast from the past, the Acer Aspire 8920 laptop.
Oh yeah, the 8920.
Remember this thing, this absolute unit of a machine from way back in 2008.
2008, wow.
Maybe some of you are even thinking about picking one up secondhand, which honestly is not a bad idea. They're pretty powerful.
Yeah, they're pretty cool for retro tech.
But whether you're a vintage tech enthusiast or just curious about how this classic powerhouse compares to today's laptops, you're in for a treat.
Yeah, we're going to uncover some surprising facts about this laptop.
We'll explore what made it so remarkable back in the day and maybe even see how it stacks up against modern machines.
It's really fascinating to look back at the Aspire 8920, you know?
Yeah.
Because it really tells us a lot about how our relationship with laptops has evolved. I mean, back then, desktops were still king.
Right.
And laptops were kind of trying to prove that they could offer comparable experience, like they wanted to be taken seriously.
Totally.
And the 8920 was a bold attempt to bridge that gap, you know?
It really was.
It gives us this glimpse into what users valued back then, what was considered important in a laptop.
Absolutely. And right off the bat, the most striking thing about the Aspire 8920 has got to be that massive 18.4-inch widescreen display.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it was a true pioneer pushing the boundaries of what portable even meant.
Right.
I mean, that's basically a small TV strapped to your keyboard.
You're not wrong to call it a small TV. It was huge. I mean, a huge departure from the norm in 2008.
Yeah.
Most laptops back then were still rocking like 15-inch screens, if you were lucky.
Yeah, 15 was a pretty good size back then.
So to see a laptop with a screen this size, it was pretty mind-blowing, and it really signaled that Acer was serious about this whole, like, desktop replacement thing.
For sure, they wanted to create a desktop experience in a laptop form factor.
Exactly.
And, you know, it really makes you think about how our definition of portable has changed over time.
Oh, yeah?
I mean, we're so used to these ultra-thin laptops that can just disappear into a backpack.
Right.
But back then, the sheer size and weight of the 8920, you know, over 9 pounds.
It was a beast.
It was almost like a badge of honor, like a sign that this laptop was packed with power and capability.
Yeah, it's like they were saying, hey, look at this. This laptop can do it all, and we're not afraid to show it.
No compromises.
No compromises. And speaking of doing it all, let's talk about the performance specs.
Okay, let's get into the nitty-gritty.
All right, so we've got an Intel Core 2 Duo processor, 4 gigabytes of DDR2 RAM, and hard drive options ranging from 320 gigabytes to a whopping 640 gigabytes.
It's 640. That's a lot, even for today.
It was a lot. Back then, those specs might seem modest by today's standards, but back in 2008, that was some serious firepower.
Absolutely. That was top-of-the-line stuff.
Cutting edge.
I'm curious, though, how did this hardware stack up against other laptops in its class? What could users realistically do with that kind of power back in the day?
Well, the Core 2 Duo was a workhorse of a processor, you know.
Okay.
And 4 gigabytes of RAM was considered pretty generous for a laptop. So this machine could definitely handle multitasking, running office applications, playing back media without breaking a sweat. Even some light video editing was possible.
Okay.
But anything too demanding would have pushed it to its limits. As for streaming,
Right.
well, services like Netflix as we know them today, they were still in their infancy back then.
Right. Streaming wasn't really a thing yet.
Yeah, it was a different world.
So it makes you wonder how people actually use the Aspire 8920 for entertainment. I guess it was mainly for watching DVDs or downloaded content, huh?
Exactly. The Aspire 8920, it was marketed as a multimedia powerhouse.
Oh, okay.
And it really leaned into that with its massive screen and dedicated NVIDIA GeForce graphics.
Yeah.
Watching DVDs and downloaded content would have been an amazing experience on this machine, especially with the Dolby Home Theater audio for that surround sound effect.
Oh, yeah, Dolby Home Theater.
It was a big deal.
That brings back some memories. It was pretty rare to have that kind of audio quality on a laptop back then.
It added a whole new dimension to the multimedia experience.
You know, it really did.
And speaking of multimedia, the Aspire 8920 also had a dedicated HDMI port, which was pretty forward-thinking for 2008.
That's interesting. Why was HDMI such a big deal back then? I mean, it's pretty standard now, but...
Well, remember, HDMI wasn't as ubiquitous as it is today. It was still relatively new, you know.
Right.
And having it built into a laptop meant that you could easily connect it to your TV or an external monitor for a bigger screen experience.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Acer was really thinking ahead, anticipating this growing trend of using laptops as entertainment hubs.
It's like they saw the future of home entertainment.
They had a vision.
And they were trying to make the Aspire 8920 a part of it.
Exactly.
It was like a bridge between the traditional desktop experience and this emerging world of portable entertainment.
Bridge between worlds.
And speaking of bridges, the Aspire 8920 also had a pretty impressive array of other ports and connectivity options, didn't it?
Oh, it was a true connectivity hub.
Like a one-stop shop for all your connection needs.
4 USB ports, a card reader, Ethernet, even a VGA port. It had it all.
It really did.
It was clearly designed for a world where people were connecting their laptops to all sorts of devices.
Yeah, like they wanted to make sure you could connect to anything you could possibly need.
Absolutely.
It makes you wonder, though, with all that connectivity and that massive screen, how was the battery life on this thing?
Well, that's where things get a little tricky. The battery life on the Aspire 8920, let's just say it wasn't its strongest point.
How bad are we talking?
About an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours if you were lucky and really dimmed the screen.
Ouch.
It was definitely the trade-off for all that power and screen real estate, you know?
Yeah, 2 hours max. That's barely enough time to watch a movie.
Right.
I can imagine people scrambling for power outlets everywhere they went.
It was a constant struggle.
Yeah.
It's a real reminder of how much our expectations for battery life have changed. I mean, we're so used to laptops that can last for an entire workday on a single charge.
Yeah, 8 hours is like the bare minimum these days.
But back then, it was a different story. You were pretty much tethered to an outlet if you wanted to use the Aspire 8920 for any extended period of time.
It's almost like you had to plan your day around the laptop's battery life.
It was a way of life.
But hey, at least Acer tried to mitigate that issue with their QuicCharge technology, right?
Yes. That was a pretty impressive feature for the time.
Yeah.
It allowed you to charge the battery up to 80% in just an hour, which was a pretty big deal for people who needed to be on the go.
That is impressive even by today's standards.
It was revolutionary.
It's amazing to think that even back then they were already trying to address the limitations of battery technology.
Yeah, they were ahead of the curve.
It really shows that the desire for portability and convenience, it was already a driving force in laptop design, even if the technology wasn't quite there yet.
The seeds were planted.
So we've talked about the Aspire 8920's striking design, its impressive performance for the time, and its forward-thinking connectivity features. But what about the software experience? What was it like to actually use this machine back in the day?
Well, that's where things get really interesting. The Aspire 8920 originally shipped with Windows Vista.
Ah, Windows Vista.
Which, well, let's just say it had a bit of a mixed reception at the time.
Yeah, Vista, it's become almost legendary for its quirks and its, challenges.
It had its moments.
But what was it actually like to use on a day-to-day basis on this machine?
To be honest, it was a bit of a mixed bag. Okay. On the one hand, it brought some significant advancements in terms of user interface and features like the Aero Glass interface with its translucent windows and flashy animations. That was a big departure from the more utilitarian look of Windows XP.
Right. It was definitely a step towards a more visually appealing operating system.
It was trying to be modern, you know? And it also introduced features like user account control.
Right.
Which, although it annoyed a lot of people at the time, it was a necessary step towards improving security.
It was trying to keep us safe.
It had good intentions.
But on the other hand, Vista was also known for being a bit of a resource hog, wasn't it? Did it run smoothly on the Aspire 8920?
That's a good question. The Aspire 8920's hardware was certainly capable of handling Vista, but it definitely wasn't a seamless experience. There were reports of slowdowns, glitches, and compatibility issues with certain software.
So it sounds like using Vista on the Aspire 8920 was a bit of a gamble. You might have a great experience, or you might end up pulling your hair out.
It was a bit of a lottery, But to be fair to Vista, it was also a very ambitious operating system. It was trying to do a lot of new things. And in that sense, it was a stepping stone towards the more refined and stable Windows versions that followed.
It was a learning experience for everyone involved.
It paved the way.
It's interesting to see how even back then, the software experience played such a crucial role in shaping the overall perception of a laptop. It wasn't just about the hardware anymore. It was about the entire package.
The whole experience.
The hardware, the software, how they all work together.
Exactly. The Aspire 8920, it offers this fascinating glimpse into that evolution. It was a machine that pushed the boundaries of hardware design.
It really did.
But it was ultimately held back to some extent by the software limitations of its time.
The hardware was ahead of its time.
It was ahead of the software.
Okay, so we've explored the hardware, the multimedia capabilities, and even touched on the software experience of the Aspire 8920. What stands out to you as the most remarkable aspect of this laptop, considering it was released over 15 years ago?
You know what strikes me the most is its boldness.
Boldness. Okay.
The Aspire 8920. It was a statement piece. It wasn't afraid to be big, to be different, to challenge the conventions of what a laptop should be.
It was a rebel.
It was a pioneer in many ways, and even though it may seem clunky and outdated by today's standards, it really did pave the way for the sleek and powerful laptops that we have today.
It was a trendsetter.
It was a game changer.
It's a great reminder that innovation often comes from taking risks and pushing the boundaries. The Aspire 8920 might not have been perfect, but it was a bold step forward, and it left a lasting legacy on the world of portable computing. But before we move on to the Aspire 8920's lasting legacy, let's take a quick break. We'll be right back.
Thinking about the Aspire 8920's size and features, it's interesting how certain design choices just fall out of favor as technology evolves.
Oh, for sure.
Like, for instance, the 8920 had a built-in optical drive.
Oh, yeah.
Which was pretty standard for laptops back then.
Mm.
I mean, can you imagine a modern laptop with a CD, DVD drive today?
I mean, they're practically extinct now, right? It seems almost archaic.
It's funny how quickly things change.
And we're so used to streaming and downloading everything now that physical media feels like a relic of the past,
I know, it's like a blast from the past.
But back in 2008, optical drives were essential for laptops like the Aspire 8920. I mean, they were marketed as these multimedia powerhouses,
Right.
And having a DVD drive was crucial for watching movies, listening to music, even installing software.
Absolutely, it was a different time.
It's a great example of how shifts in technology and user behavior can just render certain features completely obsolete.
Yeah, the rise of cloud storage, streaming services, digital distribution.
Right.
It totally changed the way we consume media.
And made optical drives practically irrelevant.
Yeah, basically.
But I can still picture someone, settling in with their Aspire 8920, popping a DVD into the drive, and enjoying a movie night on that massive 18.4-inch screen.
Yeah.
It must have been quite the experience, especially with the Dolby Home Theater audio.
It was a whole home theater experience in a laptop.
Yeah, you're painting a very accurate picture. It really highlights how the Aspire 8920 was designed to be like this complete entertainment package.
Right.
Catering to the needs and preferences of users at that time.
It was a different era.
Speaking of the user experience, the Aspire 8920 also had a built-in webcam.
Oh, yeah.
Albeit a 1.3 megapixel one.
It wasn't the greatest.
Which might seem paltry compared to today's high-resolution cameras, but back then it was a pretty significant feature.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, remember, this was before smartphones with decent cameras became widespread.
Right. Everyone was still rocking flip phones.
So having a webcam built into your laptop, it was a game changer for video chatting, staying connected with friends and family. It was a novelty.
It was like a window into the future.
It was the future.
It's funny to think about those early video calls, probably all grainy and pixelated.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
But still, it was a symbol of how technology was breaking down geographical barriers and bringing people closer together.
It was connecting people.
It's amazing to see how those early steps in video communication, they really paved the way for the crystal clear video conferencing we have today.
It's incredible how far we've come.
It's a testament to how quickly technology evolves and how even those seemingly small advancements can have a really profound impact on the way we live and interact with the world.
They ripple outwards.
The Aspire 8920 reminds us that technology is a constantly evolving story.
It's a journey.
And looking back at these older devices, it really helped us appreciate how far we've come and maybe even get a glimpse of where we're headed.
It's like looking through a time machine.
Exactly. Speaking of the Aspire 8920's place in history, let's revisit its performance for a moment.
Okay.
The Core 2 Duo processor and 4 GB of RAM might seem modest by today's standards, but back in 2008, that was considered quite powerful for a laptop.
It was top of the line.
What kind of tasks do you think users were realistically performing on this machine back then?
Well, it was marketed as a desktop replacement.
Right.
So I imagine people were using it for everything from office work and web browsing to multimedia consumption and even some light gaming.
Yeah, it was designed to be a versatile machine.
It's an all-rounder.
It makes you wonder, though, with its specs and all, could the Aspire 8920 handle modern software if it were still around today?
That's a fascinating thought experiment.
I know, it's fun to think about.
While it would undoubtedly struggle with really resource-intensive applications like video editing software or modern games.
Yeah, those would probably bring it to its knees.
It might be surprising how well it could handle basic tasks like browsing the web, checking email, working on documents.
It might surprise us.
It might still have some life left in it.
It would be fun to see someone try installing a modern operating system like Windows 11 on an Aspire 8920. It would be a real test of its capabilities.
A true challenge.
And a fascinating glimpse into how an older machine adapts to a new software environment.
It would be like teaching an old dog new tricks.
Now that would be a sight to behold. Speaking of adapting and evolving, the Aspire 8920 also boasted a plethora of ports and connectivity options, something we've touched upon already.
Oh yeah, it was a true connectivity hub.
I mean, it had HDMI, VGA, Ethernet, 4 USB ports, even a 5-in-1 card reader.
It was ready for anything.
It was like they were preparing it for any possible connection scenario.
They wanted to cover all the bases.
It's a great reminder that before wireless connections became as ubiquitous and reliable as they are today, having a wide range of ports was essential.
Oh, absolutely.
For ensuring seamless connectivity to various devices.
You couldn't just rely on Wi-Fi or Bluetooth for everything back then.
Right. Sometimes you needed that rock-solid connection that only a cable could provide.
Especially for a laptop like the Aspire 8920, which was designed for multimedia and entertainment. Reliable connections were crucial for ensuring a smooth and lag-free experience when watching movies, transferring files, connecting to external displays.
It was all about that stability.
It had to be rock solid.
It's interesting to see how connectivity needs and expectations have changed over time.
Oh yeah, for sure.
We've gone from this world of cables and ports to a world of wireless freedom.
It's a wireless world.
But the core desire for seamless and reliable connectivity, it remains constant.
It's never going to change.
It's a testament to how technology adapts to our evolving needs while always striving for greater convenience and efficiency.
It's always pushing forward.
Now let's shift gears for a moment and talk about the software side of the Aspire 8920.
Okay.
We've already mentioned that it shipped with Windows Vista.
Right.
But it was also compatible with Windows XP and Windows 7.
It was a versatile machine.
What do you make of this backward compatibility, especially considering Vista's somewhat rocky reception?
Well, I think it was a smart move by Acer to offer that backward compatibility. You know, it gave users the flexibility to stick with a familiar operating system if they weren't ready to embrace Vista.
Right. Some people just weren't ready for Vista.
It was a big change.
And it probably broadened the laptop's appeal to a wider audience.
It made it more accessible.
Offering backward compatibility was a pretty common practice back then, especially when a new operating system like Vista was still finding its footing and facing some initial resistance from users.
It was a way to ease the transition.
It's a reminder that even in the fast-paced world of technology, there's a need to cater to users who might be hesitant to adopt the latest and greatest.
Right.
Especially if they're comfortable with what they already know and trust.
People like familiarity.
It's about striking a balance between innovation and familiarity, ensuring that new technology is accessible and appealing to a wide range of users.
It's about finding that sweet spot.
Speaking of appealing to users overall, do you think the Aspire 8920 was a successful laptop despite its quirks and limitations?
It's a complex question.
It is.
But I'd say yes. While it might not have been the most popular or widely used laptop of its time,
Right.
it was undoubtedly a bold experiment that pushed the boundaries of what a laptop could be.
It was a pioneer.
It was a trailblazer.
It was a
It
statement.
was all of those things.
And it paved the way for the sleek, powerful, and portable laptops we have today.
It set the stage.
Its legacy lies in its audacity, its willingness to try new things, and its contribution to the evolution of laptop design.
It left its mark.
It's a testament to the fact that innovation often comes from taking risks and challenging conventions.
You gotta break the mold sometimes.
And even though the Aspire 8920 might seem like a relic of the past compared to today's sleek Ultrabooks,
Yeah.
it's a valuable reminder that we can learn a lot from looking back at older technologies and understanding how they shaped the devices we use today.
History has a lot to teach us.
It's all connected.
Yeah.
It's amazing how just revisiting a device like the Aspire 8920 can spark such a wide-ranging conversation, you know?
It really is.
About technology, user habits, even like the philosophical side of our relationship with gadgets.
Yeah, it shows how technology, it's not just about specs and features, but also like the stories we weave around these devices, the memories we create,
Right.
the way they shape our lives.
I bet some of you listening right now, you have vivid memories of using an Aspire 8920 back in the day.
Oh, I'm sure.
Whether it was for school projects or late night gaming sessions or catching up with family and friends over those grainy webcam chats.
Good time.
It's like each device, it becomes a time capsule.
Yeah.
You know, capturing a moment in technological history.
Right.
And reflecting the trends and the values of that era.
It's a snapshot of the past.
It makes you wonder what people will think about the laptops we use today in like 15 or 20 years, you know?
Oh, yeah.
What will be considered cutting edge then? What will seem like quaint and outdated?
Right. What will be the relics of the future?
What stories will our current devices tell about us?
I don't know, it's exciting to think about.
It really is. It's a fascinating thought experiment. Maybe foldable screens will be commonplace by then.
Yeah, or maybe we'll be interacting with our laptops using augmented reality.
Who knows?
Or even neural interfaces.
The possibilities are endless.
No, truly endless.
And it's exciting to think about how technology will continue to evolve and surprise us.
It always does.
One thing's for sure, we'll have plenty of intriguing deep dives to do in the years to come.
Oh yeah, plenty to explore.
As technology keeps advancing at this incredible pace. But for now, I think it's time to bring our exploration of the Acer Aspire 18920 to a close.
Yeah, it's been a great journey.
It has been a captivating journey back in time, and we hope you've gained a new appreciation for this pioneering laptop.
Oh yeah.
And its place in the evolution of portable computing.
Absolutely.
We encourage you to continue exploring the world of technology, both old and new.
Keep that curiosity alive.
Maybe you'll dust off an old device from your closet, or do some research on the history of your favorite gadgets, or even try your hand at repairing or restoring a vintage piece of tech.
That's a great idea.
Who knows, you might unearth hidden gems, discover forgotten innovations, or even spark new ideas for future technological advancements.
You never know what you might find.
And as we conclude this deep dive, we want to leave you with one final thought-provoking question.
All right, hit us with it.
If you could take one feature from the Aspire 8920 and incorporate it into modern laptops, what would it be and why?
Oh, that's a good one.
Would it be that massive 18.4-inch screen, the abundance of ports, the dedicated multimedia controls, or perhaps something less tangible like its boldness and pushing the boundaries of laptop design?
So many possibilities.
Share your thoughts in the comments below. We're eager to hear your perspectives and to continue this conversation about the legacy of the Aspire 8920 and its influence on the laptops we use today.
We want to hear from you.
And if you're looking for more in-depth information on both legacy and modern technology, be sure to visit RechargeMyTopup.com.
They've got it all.
They have a wealth of resources, reviews, and articles to satisfy your tech curiosity.
They're a great resource.
Thanks again for joining us on this deep dive into the Acer Aspire 8920.
It's been a pleasure.
We'll see you next time.
Until then, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep pushing the boundaries of what's possible with technology.